first item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes of September 28th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the second item is the revised athletic complex plan. I don't know if there have been any changes. I wasn't at the last meeting. If there's anything, or we have to go over before we change the complex itself.
I think the real change was just the fact that we moved the building closer to the parking lot. So Kyle captured that, turned the pickleball courts and the basketball court, but I personally like this layout.
I really
Yeah, I
do
do
too.
too.
Yeah. Like it feels done. Finally. Like I looked at it, I'm like, I think it's done. This is it.
You said at the last meeting.
I know.
Kyle, is there anything you want to add?
No, I think, basically from what we talked about before is that we've got a porch facing north, which is the restroom entry, and then we have a porch facing west, which is the food pantry entry, and then I think the rest of it is pretty much as we had talked about before. We had removed the storage area from the building and expanded the eastern storage building to accommodate the additional storage needs. And then I think if you look at the building where it says restroom, food pantry below, there's the ability to actually expand the food pantry as needed in the future. So we've left some room for expansion possibilities. I think if you look at the next page, that really kind of shows the full layout with the new building. Kind of you can see that you can add to the south of that building, the basketball court, the pickleball courts, the large field we remove the trees that are on the western side, so that's maintained as just a grass berm going down to the big field, and then the eastern field is the slightly smaller one.
I really like this.
Yeah, I think it looks
That's
fantastic.
The next sheet is basically the high school, the proposed work at the high school, and you can see that we've added an additional tennis court, basketball court. This is all from earlier efforts, and then the synthetic turf baseball infield as well as outfield. And typically a baseball field it got that radius edge in the outfield center field, so this is a slightly larger chunk of turf, thus slightly more expensive. But it really does give you the option of having the field either north-south, east-west, or like 3 fields, depending on the size for smaller children.
And this north-south field, is this soccer, is this lacrosse?
That's a soccer field,
And
that's the minimum, kind of the minimum soccer dimensions in there.
So that works for soccer.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Does it work for any other sports, lacrosse or anything else?
Yeah, actually lacrosse will fit in that as well.
Field
And field hockey will fit, yeah.
Excellent.
Soccer's really kind of the big land hog.
Okay.
So folks closer to the schedule, it looks to me like the soccer field is the outfield for the baseball, right? And that's, there's no conflict there, schedule-wise, or?
No,
Okay.
no, opposite high school is
fall.
fall and spring.
Spring
Okay.
for baseball.
Perfect.
And then the third sheet, we were trying to avoid underground lines so that we don't have any future efforts to try to fix them. The basketball court's pretty straightforward, that's replacing what's there. We do have some subsequent drawings. The circles that we're showing were old vents, and all of that's been decommissioned. So I think what we can actually do, and we'll take a quick look at it, is take these 2 courts and place them on the west. And so I think that actually gets rid of kind of the conflicts. We do know that these 2 tanks are still functional, so the southerly lines are functional, and as is the northerly line. So what we'll do is look at what fits, and it might mean that they start out here but slightly shift to the west to accommodate all of them. But I think the nice part of that is it really leaves kind of that lawn in front, and it's moving it even further from Howard.
So you're saying where they're positioned, you would be moving them over?
Right, we'll take these 2 and we'll put basically there as a group of
And not interfere with the underground stuff.
at all, right?
Yeah, all of this here is all been decommissioned.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
When we drew this up, we were worried that the vent pipes were still there and you'd have that lovely low tide smell on occasion. So,
Yeah, I like, that would be good. Right?
Fantastic.
and then the estimates we arranged so that they correspond with what we discussed last week. So that there's basically three buckets. The one is the intergenerational park, and that's all inclusive. And then we have the high school, which includes basically the synthetic turf, basketball, and tennis. And then the third group is really what's going on at Howard, which is, the second group is really just the baseball field. And then the third bunch is really the 2 basketball courts, pickleball, and the additional tennis court.
The second one with the baseball field is the soccer field as well?
Yes.
Yeah, that the
Yeah.
entire.
That's the entire,
patch.
that area that's
It's
green
just this.
is that whole chunk of turf.
Okay, cool, thank you.
And then any questions at all about that pricing? And then using this pricing here, if you want to flip to the back page of your packet, my recommendation to the selectmen will be that the reason we broke it up into 3 buckets is the third bucket, which is the pickleball courts and the basketball courts, is I would recommend to the selectmen that we use free cash to pay for that, so we don't bond it. And then that would leave 2 different sets of bonding, which would be the Russo complex and the high school turf. You don't have it?
Did I didn't give you one in the end?
In the back of
In the
the.
last page of your packet?
On the agenda one.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the building can be bonded for 30 years, and then the fields can only be bonded for 15 years. So we would actually do 3 sets of bonding, even though there's 2 packages. And you could see that what the debt service would be on an annual basis in the first year. The payments actually drop subsequent years, because even though it's a fixed rate, our interest drops on an annual basis, so you pay a little bit less. And you can see what the tax year impact is for the individual household based on the average property value in town.
Schedule. Do we have an update, or?
You wanna take that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things I think the committee needs to decide on. From a schedule perspective, as we get close, like I think our timeline now, stepping through everything brings us awfully close to the Thanksgiving holiday. Which gives us, we could then push a town meeting into the first couple of weeks of December, or just personally, I've heard mixed emotions on that time of year in particular. Or, the other choice, I guess, is whether or not we can take it at that point, whether we do it the first week of December or do the vote the second week of January. I don't know that there's a big difference from an impact, so I think first thought is, do we wanna get it in and get it done prior to, say this, by the second week of November, which is a pretty tight and aggressive timeline. at this point? Or are we comfortable as a group saying there's no reason not to do it in January other than weather, right? Which we can always adjust.
Versus the first week of December.
The first week of December.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
One
think
of those
I
two.
think the first week of December is probably better at this point, just to give the group time and committees time. December's a busy month, thinking of parents with kids and going to meetings, but that first week usually isn't. It's that lead up to school break, so I don't think that first week of December is typically a crazy week for people, you know, above and beyond our normal
My only
schedules.
thought is we could lose this vote by 4 or 5 votes, right? And we will lose 4 or 5 people that first week of December. I'm not saying we won't come the second week of January, but if every vote counts. I'm playing a little devil's advocate. I'm not.
So you're gonna be away? Is what you're saying?
Whenever we go, I'll go away. So it's just, I don't know what the right answer is. I know December, from Thanksgiving to Christmas is usually a mild case of insanity at my house. Not that I won't want to get out, but just trying to balance that, because it really impacts families, which I think would be the people that were most likely to get to vote for us. So, I don't know what everybody else's
I feel like
thoughts.
December's rough. What would be the argument not to wait till January? Would there be one?
I wouldn't have one.
Is there any impact on any?
Let me just verify with Carl, do you see if we do January, assuming an approval versus approval in December, do you see any impact in going out to bid and being able to start sometime next year?
No, I mean, what window would you look at for your construction window?
February 1st? I think
March,
realistically,
April.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
whatever.
ground thaws
it's-
around here in April, right?
Well, it's gonna
Right.
take 30 to 45, probably 60 days to get an OPM,
Right.
and then from there, go out to bid for construction, and, I mean, I'm gonna assume it's probably a 4 to 5 month lead time before you can,
Right, actually put a shovel in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, January, that means that we're realistically, at best case, talking July.
Right.
And if we do December, realistically, we're talking potentially June,
June.
so that's really a choice. And obviously, you don't get to June or July shovel if you don't get the approval, so it's
Yeah.
really more, when do we think it's better? I mean, I'm really of mixed emotions. I mean, I feel like December, that might be more difficult in scheduling, but if somebody really wants it, they want it.
We plan on information night.
And that's the other part, is that we need to do a public hearing. We don't need to, but I know we've always
Yeah,
discussed
no, I
it,
agree, we should.
and we should.
I agree.
We
And-
should do that before the warrant article's written too, in case something comes up that we want to change. So there can be real feedback.
So if that's the case, the warrant has to be posted for a minimum of 2 weeks. So I was gonna say with the golf course, we did the 1 week before, but that's fine. So we would do the public hearing, and there'll be a selectman meeting to post to vote on the warrant, and then I need 2 weeks to post. So you're talking realistically at least 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know how we're gonna meet that deadline and do it in December, It's gonna be hard.
So then the question is, if we did the initial public hearing in December, and we're concerned about people not showing up for a vote, we're gonna be concerned about people not showing up just to learn about it. And then, because we don't wanna waste the time.
The one thing though that's good with that is we could have it and tape it and post it on
Oh,
the,
we
you know what I
will.
mean, and people can watch it, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know.
I've had a few people that are watching these meetings come up and ask questions recently, so word's out,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, throwing a
That's
devil
good.
advocate, if it's bad weather in January and you don't get that turnout, is
I
that gonna
know.
be worse than December?
I know,
I mean,
December.
Yeah.
December, at least you have June start date,
Yeah.
which school's getting out, you can get into some of the sites a lot easier and earlier to maybe get the project moved along.
Yeah,
I mean, it's-
what's the timeline start to finish of the project?
I think now that the building is really kind of a smaller thing, 4 to 6 months is probably safe.
For the entire complex?
I mean, I think That's
lead time
pushing
or
it.
for construction?
for construction only.
Just in time to close it up for the winter.
I know. I know the time, thinking that timeline too.
January can be a terrible month for snow.
and
Yeah,
cold.
that's what I know. I'm
Yeah,
thinking what
yeah,
you
it's just,
said.
do you wanna come out
December,
on a sub-zero night to,
We tend to not get snow
Yeah.
that often in December, and it's,
Right,
that is,
right.
but
It's-
I,
especially that early? I mean, if you go in the first week, it's,
Yeah.
So if we show it for the first week in December, what are the steps we need to do to get there?
You just read my mind. So I'm gonna say, let's back into
Back
it.
up.
So
Right,
if we look at the first week of December, which is Monday the 5th, so let's just assume that we went for a Monday night.
yep,
That means the selectmen would have to, they have their meetings on, their last meeting before is November 16th. So on November 16th, they would vote on the warrant, we would post it, that gives me 2 weeks' notice, so we're sufficient in compliance with that.
okay,
And that means that we would wanna have that public forum, the meeting either Monday the 14th or the week prior. So that way, to Anthony's point, the selectmen can then,
take that feedback.
take that, exactly.
And that gives us October to sharpen our skills, so to
And-
speak.
Yeah, what do we have left to do to get ready for, let's just say, an 11-14 public forum? What is, what are the to-dos?
Yeah, I was gonna recommend that we break out in a couple of groups, with sort of the key principles for each one that would put presentation together on, the Russo side of things and another on the needs for the high school side of things. Where we can, focus on a presentation, the good
Mhm.
questions, the skills, whatever we need to make that make sense.
So does that give us enough time to put the presentation together for 11-14?
I mean, I think it gives us,
Yeah, it should be.
Quite a long
5
time.
weeks,
Yeah.
4 or 5 weeks, yeah.
I might, based on what Jeff is saying, I would think some of those subgroups would meet over the next week or two. And
come
then,
back to this group.
then they'll correct the last week of October, or probably the first week in November, report back to the body as a whole, and then be prepared for the 14th. That does
So
give
when
them
would we,
enough space.
when would you go to select them?
I would be going to the selectmen on November 16th,
Okay, so not till then.
and,
Public meeting before then, that's really the first.
Yeah.
although, the only thing is that, in fairness to the board should probably have knowledge, an intimate knowledge of what's going on at the public meeting.
Mhm.
So I might, for example, we don't have to have everything fine-tuned from a presentation standpoint, but I think we know what the presentation is, it's gonna be this.
Mhm.
And we know what the costs are, and we know what the tax impacts are. So I think maybe on November 2nd, we would bring that to the selectmen, so everybody knows.
It would be more ideal to have the support.
I think a couple of
members.
I think a couple of people here should be here, I mean, Anthony obviously chairs both, but a couple of people from here should be there as well. Present to the selectmen, then have the public forum, then have on November 16th, the selectmen then take a vote to call the town meeting and to fine tune the wording of the warrant, and that we can post and have our town meeting the week of December 5th. And the question is, December 5th, does that Monday work? And if it does work, then I need to just verify with the school that the auditorium is available.
So if we use that timeline and bring it to the selectmen on 11-2, then would this committee review the presentation on the 26th of October? Is that a step we need, or we don't need to do that? Of what's gonna go to the selectmen, or do we know enough?
I think the committee should, we should meet and see what the two groups have put together, and
Yeah.
make sure it's what we all want as a whole.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm gonna guess that as part of that subcommittee, the thought process is, so no one person's doing all the talking, it's just to figure out who talks about what. And, and some of it has to be, we've been meeting for 2 years,
Mhm.
so how do you condense all of that to 15 minutes?
Right.
Mhm.
Do we know on this, going back to the tax impact, on a percentage basis, what that represents? I mean, does it make sense to include that as well?
Because Anthony said the same thing.
Did he?
Yeah, it's hard to
So the average,
extrapolate that.
well, now.
Well, based on
If
the
you're
home
not
value, based on this home value, what?
Correct, so, the average tax bill in town right now is a little over $6,000.
Okay.
So 10% of that would be 600, so
3%.
5% is 300,
So
so
rough.
it's about 4.5%.
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit easier to get your head around.
That's exactly what I'm
Right.
thinking too, is, you know, some people like to look at dollars, some like to hear, well, what percentage are going
Yeah.
up, and,
Now, I always caution people when we talk about these numbers, because this is not, taxes is not linear.
right,
So, for example, we have 90 new homes going in Scotland Street that are all selling for $900,000.
Mhm.
So 90 homes, just use $1 million for easy math. That's $90 million of new growth the town's gonna pick up, so say 78, 80. A $17 to $20 million new warehouse on Lincoln Street. We've got another warehouse that is 250,000 square feet being proposed on Manley Street, that's gonna be another 12 to 15 million. My point is that as you broaden the tax base,
Yeah.
the impact to that is less.
Yes.
So, right now, that's the calculation.
mm-hmm,
But if you get some of these large projects online, the impact actually gets reduced.
correct,
So that should be the max.
yeah, as of today, yeah.
And in year one, in year two, it's gonna be lower. If everything stayed the same, because the interest will be less in year two, it goes down. And I know it's a long time, but in 15 years, the fields disappear, which is the bulk of the expense.
Mhm.
Yep.
So in year 16, how much is the building, $11?
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even notice that in your tax
Right,
bill.
right,
So it's important to know that in 15 years, if we pick up all that new growth in the first 5, 6 years, not only will that reduce the impact, a decade later, that disappears from your tax bill entirely.
Except that, what's the lifespan of these fields?
So, obviously, they'll
If
have to
they're
be.
well kept.
Yeah, no, there's gotta be maintenance costs, and there's gotta be
Maybe
associated
then you
costs.
use the funds that we take in from it, and put it into a little kitty as far as upkeep, and that's what all that stuff has to go towards the same.
and,
This,
yeah.
you know, all that
And not
stuff.
only that, Jim, but the other thing to consider, because it is, those will have to be replaced probably in that 15 years, but you're not rebuilding everything, and the groundwork's already laid down, it's really replacing
It's really
these
It's
materials,
It's
you
a
know,
field
it's not, it's
replacement, and you've got all the substrat already in place.
So that's a really
substantially
good
less,
point, because that's costing us $9 million for the complex, but one field is only 1.2 million.
yeah,
Granted, in 15 years it'll be more, and granted, I shouldn't say only 1.2 million, but I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
a small portion of the full
Right,
9 million.
right. So it would be substantially less.
Right.
So one question is definitely gonna come up is operating expense.
Yeah.
How do we approach that?
That'd be kind of a subcommittee thing to figure out what would need to be done at each specific spot.
Yeah, that's the way you're gonna be on,
I
so.
think-
What are the options? I mean, what do towns do?
Well,
What are,
That's why I'm gonna rely on Jeff and Greg and Glenn, because you guys do this all the time, and I think I think part of that subcommittee needs to really focus on it and pull some data and report back to the full committee, because not only can you look it up, you guys lived it,
Yeah,
you're currently living it.
yeah, I think that's an important thing to include, is,
Absolutely.
you know, these are our options, this is the one we think might be the best, and this is
Mhm.
why, or, you know, something like that.
right. Yeah, I mean, part of it is getting an idea of what the maintenance costs actually are, because that's, you know, part of it. I mean, getting rid of the gym and the concessions and everything that goes into that makes it a little bit easier, where it's more field maintenance and things
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we basically are self-serving in that aspect, so all the ball field, any of the renovations, our organization just does it ourselves. We don't
Mhm.
look for the town to pay for it, so.
Right.
Carl, is there a best, like, for these turf fields, is there a best practice, do you roll those once a month, do you roll?
Well, you do groom them, and so I mean, I think we can give you kind of what a preferred practice would be, and we can ship that to you this week.
All right, if you could do that, because
Yeah.
we can use that information to calculate some semblance of cost. Because the nice thing with these fields is that, say, in theory, from December through March, they won't be incurring expense.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
just the building, to the extent
Well,
that.
just the building, the food pantry.
Yeah,
And-
to
and
the
also-
extent the food pantry's
Right.
open, right?
And the it's electricity, it's,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not a bill, but it's a minimal bill.
Yeah,
So the only thing I would add on to that is that, you know, first of all, it's a good sized acreage. And, you know, as the seasons change, there is gonna be maintenance, and the fall is gonna be a lot of leaves with fencing and so forth, and you gotta get them up quick, or it's gonna ruin things. It's a massive layout, even if you said the pathway was a minimal amount of maintenance, which it will be, but it will still require maintenance. The pond, the grass, the trees, and then the fields areas are gonna require probably from March at least through December of some type of maintenance. Now, maybe nothing for those 2 or 3 cold months, other than plowing, because you've got a retail business that's in there. But as soon as spring breaks again, you've got some serious amount of work, if you wanna keep it looking like this. Or, as you know, it'll run down real quick, because it's just a big complex, so.
So Chris, what would your opinion be in terms of, is this one person just to do this, or half a person, or like,
It's a
is
whole
it too
crew.
hard to
It's a
tell?
crew,
It's a
but
crew.
the way we do it in DPW is we'll send in 5, 6, 7 people with all types of equipment to go to the high school or go to the town park.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the schools in the fall, with leaf season coming up, we've got not only mowing, but we've got tennis courts, we've got soccer fields, we've got things that need continuous maintenance as the season changes, you
Yeah.
know. No fertilization here per se, but once we get a grooming schedule, we'll know what we should be doing with something like this.
And then you would know the FTE impact
Yeah.
on that?
The bathrooms would have to be done on a regular basis, probably March through November, December. And that would require maintenance and cleaning and restocking and all of that type of things.
Well, would that be year-round if the,
No,
Well,
you'd
but-
hopefully, well, if you're gonna
if the
have
food
food
pantry's there,
pantry,
then,
that's gonna require somebody to maintain,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
So what would be the expectation of the food pantry though? Would they be, you know, would that sort of be, I don't wanna say on them, but kind of on them? If they're using the building?
Yeah, and I think
Or
there'll have to be
how does
some of
that
that, but,
work?
you know, again, we'll have to have that conversation with them, but I agree, I
Mhm.
mean, if we're providing something to them at no cost or minimal cost, then
Mhm.
I'm sure, I mean, I think they're all pretty conscientious people,
Yep.
so.
Well, the liability's still gonna be on the town, but.
No, but my point is that they can sweep, you know, clean a
Mhm.
bathroom,
yeah.
you know, do something like that, I'm sure they'll be willing to help in that vein.
Or, you know, pay for the maintenance
I'm just
person's
saying, like,
hours or whatever.
Where they are right now, I'm sure they're not paying for a private crew to come in and wash the floor, and they've gotta be doing it themselves. So we can ask them to do that here too. If-
Mhm.
Again, I've never had the conversation with them, maybe I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but, I think we all have to be, you know, I think they're reasonable.
Yeah.
So I think we just have a conversation with them.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, the cleaning, for them to be, you know, put it on them to hire a cleaning company to maintain year-round is far less what they're paying monthly now, so I mean, it's nothing compared to what they're dealing with, so it seems reasonable,
Well, I think-
providing the space.
Yeah. I think that's all the work, we gotta kinda try to put some estimates against.
yeah,
Is
or at
it-
least a contribution towards it,
Fencing
like they might not wanna be
between
responsible in the
the
weather when all the kids are running in and out of the bathrooms and whatnot.
Yes, I believe so, I believe so, yeah.
What's that, Chris?
Fencing between the parking and the field.
Yeah.
There is, okay. So just as a quick little tidbit, over to the high school, you've got the track with the football field, and you've got a fence around it.
2 fences, right?
2 fences, they're just for argument, 1/4 mile apiece. So 2 times 2 sides, we've got a mile of weed whacking just around those 2 fences over there.
Glenn's pretty good at it too.
So picture that, you know, and so now you're fencing, it's just, it adds up real
It
quick.
does add
Sure.
up
It adds
fast,
up.
yeah.
If I said you go weed whack for a mile, well, you know, and that's what you're doing over there, so.
One other question I have, a little off topic, but when you asked about the fence, did we build in any sort of pricing for netting along here? Like, do we think that that Lincoln Street is far enough away that if an errant ball goes, that it's gonna get onto the street?
Yeah, I mean, I
It's
think it's pretty far.
pretty
down.
far away.
And
Is
you got
that,
cars-
okay,
I don't know of a car, I mean, I don't know that the distance is the same, but I don't know of a ball that's left the high school and hit a car in the parking lot.
Okay. Good.
I think one of the options for the food pantry in the off-season is to close down the 2 large bathrooms and then use the family room only as a
Yeah.
convenience restroom. So that might be another interim solution for restroom use
Yeah.
off-season.
Yeah.
It does make a lot of
idea.
sense.
There's no crowd, no need for.
No.
Right.
And the only people
It's
in there
temporary
are gonna be
hours.
are going to be food pantry related. So, yeah, that makes it.
That cuts down on the maintenance and
Mhm.
everything like that, yeah.
So Jeff mentioned subgroups, so there's a couple of people that wanna do the presentation.
Yeah, I know for the Russo side, I'd like to take a crack at it, at least with these 2 guys and whoever else, if it's you or David or.
I can assist with that, like, if that works for everyone. It's a group of 4, we can have, up to 4.
You can have up to 4.
And then the school, I did talk to Jen about it, because she's got games tonight, so she can't be here, but she's definitely interested in that. I mentioned it to Bill, just to see, so, and then unless somebody else wants, I'd join that as well, and then give it back up to whoever.
Okay, that works for me. Does that work for everyone? Yeah.
Hopefully I can bridge the 2 stories, so we don't come in apples and oranges when we come back to presentations.
You
So
could be
the-
the intermediary.
So do we want to target a date so that way the subcommittees know you need to wrap up their work for me? Do we want to shoot for, say, this thing is the 20,
The 19th or the 26th, right?
which
we
dates?
try to
Oh,
s-
this is October, David.
Yeah.
So if we shoot for the 26th, for a full committee meeting, does that give the subcommittees enough time?
2 weeks, I think so.
3
Or-
weeks.
Or would
3
you?
weeks.
Yeah.
No, today's, yeah.
5th,
Uh,
right?
Yeah,
Today's
the
5th.
5th.
Yeah. 3 weeks, that should be enough time.
That should be enough
I
time.
think so,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm good on the 26th.
And then you'll be able to send out that
then.
information to us, Kyle, so I can get to the subcommittees.
Yes, yep.
And then we'll meet on the November 2nd at the board,
What time on that?
brief the board. So I need to do, so right now, November 19th, I'm sorry, November 14th, we'll be looking to do the public meeting, is that correct?
14th.
That's, I wrote down the 14th,
The Monday,
Is there a choice between people, whether it's a Monday night or a Tuesday night?
either of those days are
All
fine.
right, so what I'm gonna do is because I have to speak to the school, make sure that one of those nights, if both nights are available, I'll do Monday night. And if Monday night's not available, I'll do Tuesday night.
Well, my other thought was, do we know, we should, scheduling wise for games for the high school, those 2 days, like, is there a day that works better so we can get more parents from that group as well if they have questions?
We'll be in tournament then.
Okay,
We'll be two weeks into the tournament, 'cause the tournament's gonna start the 1st of November pretty much. So it'll be 2 weeks in. So I would think that if we have a date in place, that Jen could work a game day or 2 the other way. So if we went for a Monday, I'm sure we could play on Tuesday, depending on who's still alive.
okay,
At this point, I would imagine maybe both soccers might be alive that
Right.
late into the tournament.
right. Because my organization, I think, Glenn, you're pretty much done at that point too, right, November 14th?
Yeah, we finished the 12th and the 13th.
And we're done with, like, our big sport now is travel and town soccer, and that will all be done the weekend before, so, there won't be a lot of practices those nights, and, indoor soccer has started, but usually Monday, Tuesday, they're pretty quiet nights, so we can always.
I was gonna say, the other big thing is for everybody not to have games scheduled. If the
Yeah.
5th is the date of the vote, so to speak.
Yeah, we would just cancel our other games that night if we shouldn't have any, cause that, again, the only thing we have going right before the Christmas break is indoor soccer, and maybe we can't control the scheduling for that, but it might be 1 game for 10 parents, it's not, and we'll work it out.
Call them in.
Yeah, I'll forfeit that game, we'll give you $10 back each for the game.
Doubleheader basketball game that night, so we get everybody there to watch. the first week of the season, pretty much.
All right, so on December 5th, I'm gonna shoot for the special town meeting. I'm gonna see as to whether or not that date works. If that date does not work for whatever reason, historically, we've had our meetings either on Monday night or Thursday night. So do you wanna do Thursday the 8th? Would you prefer to do Tuesday the 6th? We won't be able to do the 7th. So it'd either be you tell me if people would prefer Tuesday the 6th or.
As an alternate to the
Thursday.
5th, you mean?
Yes.
Depending on the time of the meeting, I will be away most of the day on the 6th out of state, but I'll probably be back around 6 something. So that day's not
So
great
it
for
seems
me.
how Tim is guaranteed snow on the 5th.
Jinxed us.
I can
We'll give
cancel
Chris-
conservation commission meetings on the 6th if we have to, but
We could give
reschedule.
Chris a couple of days to plow and be ready for you.
Why don't I say the alt date is the 8th,
Yeah, that 8th works.
and usually that's 7 o'clock.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
We have a time for the 26th? We need the 26th, October?
Yeah.
Yes.
Time?
October 26th.
Is that a
It's a
slow
Wednesday.
meeting?
No, it's not. So October 26th, tonight we met at 5:45, does that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
And I think it would make sense that night to make sure Carl is here in case we have questions.
Absolutely.
That
October 26th, yeah, okay.
Right, and then, we should have asked you as well, but we would definitely need you at town meeting.
Yeah, we'll keep
Um,
those 2 dates open.
And so
In the
you,
public hearing.
in the public hearing, so,
And the public hearing is on the 14th?
correct.
14.
Does that date work for you as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
So you wanna be the point person as far as the subcommittee meetings, Joe?
Yeah, okay, I'll get them scheduled.
are you gonna send out agendas or you have your secretary?
I think I can handle it.
Be there.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank